Yo, what is going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder. And yes, we are here for another COD news story, which is going to be taking place in SoS2-4025. This is a Season of Strife, Winter is Upon Us KVK, where there is potentially a massive-ish betrayal that went down, some may say. Others may say one side enacted or was the first to take action based on discussions essentially deteriorating and not just making any level of progress. But I'm going to share with you all the sides involved, along with a fourth side that wasn't necessarily as immediately involved, but their context and what they provided could end up being maybe a silver bullet. So, as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you throw us up because it helps out a lot. So, the players that we have today are the two main sides. Now, in this KVK, there's a lot of kingdoms. So, if we go here, you can see Winter is Upon Us. They're in 4025, and there is a lot of kingdoms here. However, the ones we're going to be focusing on is OVO, YSS, EVA. That was one group. The other group was WAR, War, OR, and LV. Now, for the most part, and from what I've surmised, even though I haven't pulled any data before to the start of this KVK, it seems, because this is what I've been hearing, it seems as though the OVO YSS EVA group was stronger going in and had some advantages, and they ended up having kind of a clear-ish, more decisive victory to the final zone. However, once they got there ended up being some discussions that took place. I'm going to show you the summarized POVs from each side, and then I'm going to show you a number of screenshots that were shared with me by Demonica from OVO and Chi from EVA, and they're basically about the same, so I'm just going to show you really one set because they kind of sent me the same stuff. And what ended up transpiring is basically them trying to figure out how end-of-season rewards are going to be distributed, a stalemate ensuing where you had two of the three kingdoms that basically wanted the same rewards, couldn't really come to a decision, it just kept circling the drain, and then push came to shove, and you start kind of seeing these sparks flying in a sense of like action based on inaction being done, and we're going to get to that too as well on how everything broke down. So let's dive into the goods. We're going to start off by sharing with you the POVs, and then we're going to share with you the screenshots, and then I'm just going to give you my thoughts, what I think, everything on the end. Okay, so let me maybe skadoosh my face up top. Might be, ooh, look, it actually worked out decently well. Oh my God, wow. Okay, cool. Let's just shrink a little bit. So let's start off by just summarizing. So SoS2-4025 OVO, right, this is the group. All of them made to the Dragon, decided for a huge battle royale between the three of them. We'll get to that in a little bit. YSS and EVA sided together against OVO, now being pushed back out of Zone 3. It is worth mentioning OVO took the hardest and longest fights in the season. So let's get to the OVO POV first, right? That was just kind of a brief little teaser. So this was now I want to point out all of the POVs were me speaking to the leaders of each of these alliances. So for OVO, I talked to Demonica. For YSS, I talked to Franken. For EVA, I talked to Chi, and then I talked to one of, I think, the officers from War too as well. And each of these POVs that you see where it says that, right, was me summarizing what they told me, and I said, is this accurate? All of them said yes, right? Now, again, this is not all the specifics, because if I didn't summarize and kind of give you guys some highlighted notes, this could just end up being a lot longer. So this is each of their stances on how they saw things play out. OVO says this is how it started. YSS versus WAR and OR in Zone 3. Fighting lasted a while, then YSS requested OVO aid. OVO felt once they arrived, they were doing most of the fighting from that point and onward. OVO, while assisting YSS, still had to fight OR, WAR at their Pass 3 and 5. When Pass 7 opened, which is to Final Zone, end-of-season rewards discussion began, with YSS wanting end-of-season Dragon rewards. OVO rejected due to believing they did more work fighting and came to YSS aid. EVA saw both sides and was fine with whatever was decided. YSS proposed a 1v1v1 or free-for-all, attacking keeps over 3 days, with the winner getting end-of-season Dragon rewards. OVO was still fighting at this time, and YSS EVO were mostly recovering, so OVO felt this was unfair and in favor of the others. OVO said that if the war was the only option in Final Zone Determined rewards, then they would pull back from Zone 3 against WAR, OR, and not fight them there, along with withdrawing. YSS couldn't believe OVO would let War OR retake Zone 3 territory, which was the YSS Zone 3, just to be clear. YSS stated that if War OR took the pass, then YSS EVA would attack OVO. War, or OR, and OR took the pass, and YSS EVA immediately started to attack OVO. So again, that's from the OVO POV. Now, let's end up going to the YSS POV. YSS brought up topic of Dragon rewards day 1 of KVK start, mentioning not getting a reply. Again, some of this will make more sense once we get to the screenshots. YSS brought up Dragon rewards topic at pass 7. This was the second time from their recollection. Still nothing worked out. Noticed OVO removed Alliance flags, Alliance Forward flags, turned off Spire, and ORWAR built up to Final Zone. Asked OVO why they were moved and not fight. OVO said pass does not belong to them, to their zone, and they're not responsible. Keep in mind, they mentioned this before already from, again, the OVO POV. YSS DM'd OVO saying if they let War overtake pass, then it means they betrayed YSS EVA. Now they fight YSS EVA versus OVO, LV, OR, and WAR. Now let's get to the EVA POV before we get to the War POV, which the War POV could be pretty illuminating, along with once we share with you the screenshots and kind of how everything paid out from their group chat. EVA, no fighting until possibly Final Zone, right? They admitted that themselves. They kind of had like the easiest pass to there. And that's why Chi-Chi felt that it was okay when you hear them saying about like being okay. Someone had mentioned they were okay with whatever was decided, right? This was something that Chi-Chi said too as well. I can only have big props and kudos and major respect for that by being very self-aware of it. So we have rewards discussion started in Final Zone. Though YSS OVO were able to hold back LV, OR, WAR, OVO R5 didn't answer often. YSS EVA came up with first purification on Dragon, Augur Stone plus Elite Dragon, and then end of season rewards. So kind of splitting into 3. Similar to what we saw in that previous one, or I guess maybe another one that we'll end up talking about, I guess is what I mean. YSS and OVO wanted season rewards. EVA was fine with either, recognizing they fought more. YSS R5 proposed to fight for season rewards, and last one standing won them. So again, kind of some consistency here. After YSS R5 proposed to fight, OVO R5 never answered, though EVA was okay with it. During this, formed YSS officers began speaking aggressively to OVO. This did not sit well with EVA OVO. If YSS attacked OVO, then EVA would have sided with OVO. YSS R5 removed said officers involved in aggression. Again, they saw that as a nod. Even the OVO R5 said, hey, this was a good look. No. Said that this was a good look for them, just because, again, they were really wanting to make sure that that part was addressed. And so because it was, both of them kind of put it to side and didn't really consider or take it, any more than what it was. If YSS attacked OVO, then EVA would have sided with OVO. YSS R5 removed said officer involved. Oh, I already read that. In aggression, OVO went to enemy war to prepare to break alliance and attack YSS EVA. OVO removed territory in front of pass 7. This was taken as an act of betrayal by YSS EVA. War R5 wrote to EVA R5 that they were warned already that OVO EVA allied themselves against YSS. OVO organized an attack on YSS behind False Fear or YSS Betrayal. Betrayal was actually OVO, right? So this is what kind of the EVA POV was from Chi-Chi for how they had saw things play out. Now, let's get to the war. Now, keep in mind, War OR LV, this was the other Union side, right? Now, let me show you, if I can, before I get to their POV, how the map looked. So, to give you a breakdown here, you had OVO, who was here in Zone 3, which is Hornek, right? Their Zone 3 that they expanded into. The green side is YSS. They expanded over here, coming here, Argoland, you could see, or sorry, I guess technically it's from the 4, or no, sorry, not the 4, but coming over here, and they ended up coming in, and now that territory, I don't know if this has been disconnected or it was connected there, however, but that's where they came in from. So they were coming in south in Azenor, going north-northeast. They move in, and they basically came to the Necro, And then they eventually came to the Spire, but they didn't really push beyond that. From what they said, YSS asked OVO for assistance. OVO comes out of their Zone 3 into the YSS Zone 3 and is attacking WAR-OR from the east to the west. And so that's how that played out. Then, apparently, after things started to de-escalate, or to fall out, if you will, right, and OVO said they're not going to be assisting YSS in their Zone 3 anymore, they pulled back. And then you can see here where WAR and OR have built up to the Pass 7 that they reference and past the Pass 7, right? So where the fighting's happening now is that you have WAR OR fighting here, and then OVO is fighting over here, and then I don't know exactly where LV is, but those are kind of, I believe, the two main fronts that are happening right now, right? So you don't really see any movement. There's not really a lot of hard action that's happening. And then there's just kind of, some back and forth, right? There's bastions that are there at each of the passes, so it kind of almost feels like it's somewhat of a stalemate. Now, let's get to the war POV before we get to the screenshots. I'm actually doing okay on time, shockingly. Okay. Oh, hang on. Do I need to do this? Ta-da. Down more? Oh, I don't know if I can. Okay, whatever. We'll just do it like this. So here's the war POV. YSS was strong enough to push WAR and OR out, and they stopped at the Necro Level 3 Spire. So this is the war POV saying that they were strong enough to push WAR and OR out, but YSS still asked for OVO assistance. That's interesting because no one has said that thus far. However, WAR and OR were the ones that were fighting them before YSS was called in. Is that telling at all? Maybe. But that's from their side. That's what one of the officers told me, right? Now, keep in mind, this isn't the diplomacy officer. This was just an officer sharing sharing what they saw and the conversations they were involved in, right, as a part of war. So you can take that for what it is. YSS asked OVO to assist, though they felt it was not needed. OVO pushed them back to Zone 1, and then that's basically when they were coming east to west, and that's where they got pushed back. They felt that OVO did 90% of the fighting in the YSS Zone 3 against them. So it makes you wonder, how far were WAR and OR pushed up? Was it maybe on that Necro plateau that they were fighting at, and then they just pushed them back a little bit, and then YSS came in and kind of did the majority of the work? But why would you ask them to do why would you ask them to come in and assist? Because assisting is more of we're getting pushed back, we really need help. Did they do it because they just didn't want to build all that territory all that way down? Where did that really come from, right? It would have been interesting to see how that played out before. But to me, again, if this is accurate, it's somewhat telling, I feel. And so OVO communicated to them they would turn off the Spire and allow them to build to the level 7 P after they broke the union off with YSS. This is what the war POV, and I asked the officer this because I wanted to be very clear. Did OVO communicate with them before they broke things off or after they broke things off? Because if it was before, then that's pretty telling, right? Then you could argue that's kind of the betrayal moment there where maybe you just weren't fully upfront. But they said no, it happened after they had already broken off with YSS, and then it was right here where you see initially they thought it was, from what they heard, is it was going to be OVO and EVA that would break off from YSS. And then once they're voting, because WAR did an internal vote on if they were going to push again or not, once that voting concluded and they said, yeah, we are going to push, it was only OVO who broke off, right? So again, just want to kind of give it from their side on the other POV. Now, let's look at some screenshots here. So this is from the private group chat of the 3 leads here for the Alliance. And I'm going to read, and I'm just going to share my thoughts on how I think it's going and transpiring. So hello. Tomato says, all right, first, this is exactly what I tried to avoid. I've been asking everyone to discuss about the dragon from the start. So Tomato's being consistent here, right? That was something the YSS POV mentioned, was trying to figure out dragon rewards from the beginning. However, this is the thing I will say about trying to discuss end-of-season rewards in the beginning. I think it's okay if you want to discuss what the different types of rewards can be, and maybe if you want to set particular goals or milestones or certain parameters in place to maybe try to hit and achieve or reach. But to try and sit there, and I'm only saying if it went there, where you're trying to say, okay, well, let's figure this out now on who's going to get what, I don't think anyone should be doing that. And I'm not saying they did, because I don't know how those conversations played out in the beginning. But what I will say is, it just would have been nice if it's like, oh, well, let's just figure out the different types of rewards and then what those milestones and goals need to be to hit them, right? And then everyone kind of understands, well, okay, then it's up to you on what fights do you want to take, what fights don't you want to take. Is the win more important to you than the season? Because the win also kind of helps you keep your kingdom more intact. It reduces the amount of player drop-off that you'll probably see postseason. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can really talk about that are external factors outside of the KVK itself that your kingdom can still benefit from as a win, even if you're not getting a particular end-of-season reward. So again, we'll maybe dive into that at a later time. I just wanted to throw that in there as a little prefacing note. So since this is getting too closer and we can't solve our problem about reward, we should fight, but we will make it small like what we did with Eva in our Zone 3. That's what the purpose of making this separate chat, if it's going to continue down the same road as the other conversation, right? So basically they're saying like this is the second time that they've been having this conversation, and it sounds like the first time around we really came of it. Now, I don't have any screenshots from the first conversation, so we're only going to be going off of this one. Let me finish my idea, then you can share yours. About Dragon, we have 3 rewards. First reward, Augur Stone reward, which is first capture, Augur Stone reward, and end of season reward. We can build the keep near the ramp, and who get the keep destroyed first will have to pick at third. Then second and first pick. This is worse because case I can tell if we can't solve our problem here. If we base on merit and decide who can take it, it is not fair with Eva because they don't have a chance to fight through the season. However, I want to be clear here. Eva already came out and said that they don't really care, for the most part, on what reward they take. And you'll see that articulated here too as well. So I don't really think that necessarily should be reason enough. I just think that everyone kind of needs to get together and say, well, this is what we're going to base on contributions. I think merits is one way to do that. How else can you really argue or gauge that? I mean, you could pull the data from all of the alliances once the fighting started, and you can look at merit gain, you can look at deads, you can look at kills, you can factor in some of those things along with other pieces as well, if you so choose, but you'd have to pull all of that before the zone fighting starts. It is possible, it's doable. I don't know if all 3 of them did, but it very much seems like at this point it's kind of more YSS versus OVO on like who wants a particular set of rewards, and Eva's just kind of chilling like a villain and just doesn't really care, right? And it's just, I don't know, man. It's just interesting to me, like, that you see the mention of Eva when it's clear that they're kind of just okay, right? Like the win almost sounds more important to them than a particular set of rewards. That's just my view on it. And if you base the amount of T5, I think it's nonsense here. I don't base it on the amount of anything. Let me know what you think if you have an idea. Other than time spent fighting and having to fight 2 fronts and 4 alliances, and at one point coming to your Zone 3 on your request to help out. Like you can see that OVO very much feels that they did more of the heavy lifting than YSS did up until the final zone. And if you factor in what the war officer stated from what they saw transpire, I mean, you have a case for OVO being able to take first pick of those 3 set of rewards, and then YSS do the second, and then you can have Eva do the third. Now, keep in mind, let's play a little devil's advocate here and say that not devil's advocate, but like, let's say that YSS and OVO got paired up again in another KVK, and they opted to ally with each other. You could then at that point say something like, look, we got the best reward last time. As long as you contribute and you participate, even if maybe we're a little bit more contributing than you guys are, but it's close, you can have the first reward. Or, better yet, if we're looking back in hindsight, just try to figure all this stuff out beforehand, right? And maybe that could be a really cool video that I do where maybe I'll reach out to a bunch of Kingdom and Alliance leads and ask them and say, look, if you had to like work with 2 kingdoms, how would you split rewards? If you had to work with, or 2 or more kingdoms, what factors are most important to you? How would you go about splitting rewards? And then what would you rank? What would you value each of them? That actually could be a really cool thing. Maybe we'll do that. Next, helping other ally. Yes, it is. But to say you have fought more and fought longer and fought harder, I just don't see it. This is exactly why I want to discuss about this award early at the start of the season. And see, that's interesting that Tomato says that. Like, did he want to discuss that as a way to maybe avoid that? Maybe because they didn't know where, like, the heavy participation was going to be? Or, was it maybe something else? Maybe, I don't know, right? It's just, as I'm, like, looking at, as I have all this information now and I'm reading through this chat, it just makes you wonder, like, I guess overall, why couldn't this have just been figured out in the beginning, right, ultimately? We know exactly we will run in this situation. I know you wanted to make rewards at the beginning of the season before anything was done. Your suggestion then was the most merits, and I don't see merits as base that type of decision. They can be earned through too many avenues with statue-friendly trade. Now, keep in mind, this is why if you're going to count merits, really the best way to do that is you want to be sure that you are collecting them and stats at certain intervals throughout the KVK so you can reduce that margin of error, right? For example, like the merit trading, and then depending if you want to count statue or not. Next, and if I was going to decide on merits, then I'd want to wait until the very end as I'm still earning them. Let's put this on hold for a bit until Chi chimes in. Well, that's how all the big servers apply it for merit, but we match up with many dead servers, so we can't apply that. As I said, if we can't figure it out, you can do small fights so everyone can have fun, just no burning, while we are still spending RSS and fighting, then have to come in and fight again. Awesome, while everyone else is stacked full of RSS and elixir. And again, I don't know how much fighting they were doing, right? Because I really wasn't paying attention to the KVK, so I can really only go off of what they're telling me as far as how things played out in their minds for what they saw, right? And so the OVO side feels now, maybe I could have actually asked a few other people, like maybe I could have asked Warren OR and said, hey, how long was everyone fighting until? Because that actually could have been something, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe could have asked to hit on that part. Next, though, we have, good morning, how can I read 200 messages? Wow, just kind of shows you how much talking there was. I think OVO fought the longest and the most and deserves season reward, and YSS take Agrestone, EVA take first kill. I also would say EVA get 3 Hydras, YSS get 3 Hydras. For me, it's okay. And I'd love to hear what you guys think. Do you think that's fair, right? If OVO truly fought the longest and they fought the most, and you think they should get first pick, YSS second, EVA, do you think that split that the OVO lead mentioned is fair? I want to hear from you guys. Let me know. For me, it's okay. I'd like to play the dragon all together, and then EVA can purify the first time. Okay, I finished read just now. Conversation, sorry. For me, it's fine. The way of Lady, and that's Demonica that she's referring to, and for me, it's fine also to fight for decide. Obviously, we were at sandwich between two allies to decide for merits on who fought the most is not right. Yeah, merit is not option here since OVO and YSS want dragon. We can fight for it, or how would we do otherwise? It's hard for me to explain to our people, and I believe you are in the same situation like me and Lady. So, this is one of those things where, you're looking at the situation and you're wondering, well, okay, do they just fight it out? Or is this something that they can really kind of figure out beforehand? I'm curious on how many of you feel like, okay, maybe they do fight the 1v1 and figure it out. But how do you feel if one side is maybe not as healed up as the other side, right? That to me is also, I feel like that has to be a determining factor. So it says, we can do it like a small tournament. We still have almost 1 month until we're back home. Too long. Sorry, I'm at work, so I can reply. We can fight, but I want to put 2 points. 1, no towers, only a keep. 2, no alliance remain without rewards. So who lost for first take? The less rewards of dragon, purification, or prophetic stone. I don't remember who lost for second. The other one, and last takes the rewards. Who take the seasonal rewards for dragon? Don't take 3 Hydra and leave 1 Hydra for one of the other 2 alliances. Agree. No tower, no burning, just keep like we did in our Zone 3. Who take less rewards? I want to know, what do you think of that prophetic stone? First reward, get 2k or 5k? 2k 5 gems? They might have all just said NBA 2k, right? At that point. Okay. 2k 5 gems. For each person is a lot. It will give a big boost for in general for all lines. Let's wait for Lady to see what she thinks. Sure, busy day, almost at end. For me, it's party. I have another idea. To miss, I'm getting old by keep thinking. Idea is we will have war in 3 days nonstop. 1v1v1. All 3 alliance will start at 0 merit. We will capture the merit now before we start it. Whoever give up first will lose. If no one gives up after 3 days, who has highest merits will take end of season dragon. Of course, there will be no trading. Now, the idea of, let's say that all 3 alliances were fully healed. I actually don't think I don't think this is that bad of an idea as far as doing a free-for-all where the goal is, if you're trying to have the most merits, and you also make sure that no one's doing any side merit training, the only fighting would happen in Zone 3, and the idea being is like you kind of have to attack, but like if you're one side, one kingdom, you kind of have to attack both, because you don't just want to focus on only attacking one, because if you do that, then you're just giving them that many more merits. Like you kind of have to encourage to try and attack two kingdoms, whether it's at the same time or splitting your attention and focus, because you don't also want to give one side too many merits. So it's almost kind of like you have a way to de-incentivize giving too many merits to one kingdom versus the other, because if you're one, you basically want to take kingdoms, you want to take merits from both kingdoms and not just one. So I don't think that this is like the worst idea, but I'm curious of what you guys think of this. Next, during this video, what do you think? We need to decide quick. It'll start after we know who will get Dragon. The other two will need to rebuild to Hydra 2. I don't like this idea. It's a waste of RSS for all. I think it at the end only take Purification for ours, but I agree we need to hurry in the decision. So they're saying that, so now Chi-Chi's saying, I don't like the idea, feeling that it's a waste of RSS if we do the fight. Initially, Chi-Chi sounded like, okay, hey, we're okay with it. Now the Eve R5 is like, okay, I don't know about all this. Will I go to sleep? I hope you will wait for me to decide by tomorrow morning. We need to together decide if we need to split rewards in 3 between a fight. We need to fight. So, I'm not sure. Like, it sounds like against, and then it's back to it. Yeah, okay. Good night still, because sorry I had another migraine headache today. I got up this morning and sent out my gatherers, go back to sleep. And when I come back, I see accusations in World Chat on Fort on top of Dragon. This is that mention of some of those R4, 1 R4, however many from YSS that were making those sounding aggressive in World Chat. I instructed the R4 that we would not be fighting in that Zone 3 last night in order to save elixirs and RSS. I wasn't aware of the Spire being off until tonight. I don't know, lady. Seems like you guys let OR enter past 7. And I imagine that maybe they were already in past 7 at that time, or they weren't yet, and he was just foreshadowing. They are coming through your Zone 3, not ours. Just tell me directly what you want. If you want to team up with War and OR to fight us, we will fight back. Just don't keep silence day by day. You know all of this is very important, and I have to explain to my people. We are allied, but you are acting like we are not. Why the fort on top of Dragon? I'm not going to someone directly. Don't play around. Why not? Always save last fort near Dragon. Now, the one thing I want to point out that I feel is drastically important, and I don't think was mentioned to my knowledge by anyone here, but I'm going to mention it because I think that it is one of the most important things in this whole entire situation that again, maybe some other people will see where I'm going with this, but what I just simply want to say is if we go back and let's look at the Zone 3 here, right, where YSS was assisting from the east here. And remember, OVO was assisting from the east into the west. And YSS had built up to the level 3 spire. That's where they had stopped from what we were told. The big question here that I think is so blatantly obvious is why did YSS not continue to push and hold back War and OR themselves? Why is the blame being almost pushed onto OVO? Now, yes, they are in a union. Yes, they are allies. But the fighting of enemies should not be put onto one kingdom when you could have 2 or more kingdoms participating in that fight. I mean, heck, even Eva could have built to the level 7 pass and fought from the level 7 pass inside of Final Zone outwards, and then YSS from the west and over from the east. Or Eva and YSS could have fought against them. And so I just wanted to point that out because that just seems so obvious to me on that is an option, but no one mentioned that in the group chat, at least from the screenshots I was sent, that YSS could have just went to go and attack them themselves. Why didn't they continue to build? And let's even go before that. Why didn't YSS continue to build over here when OR and WAR were pushed back to the Zone 1? Did they just assume that YSS was going to keep them at bay when it's in their Zone 3? There's a number of different things. I think there's at least 2 or 3 points there at different periods that you can look to and say, well, there was opportunities for YSS to do something, but they didn't. And then to a very lesser degree, an opportunity for Eva, right? But that's only inside of the Final Zone going out. But there still was something there. And so I just want to point out, right, it just feels like there's just a lot, it sounds to me like there's a lot that's being put on OVA in this situation when it's like, man, come on, just look in the mirror a little bit, right? And I'm not saying like how dare YSS and how dare EVA, but what I'm saying is let's be objective and fair, right? So next one here is always save. If you don't trust us, you shouldn't ally with us in the first place. I'm the type of person that now, as far as putting a fort near the dragon, I mean, I don't really see that as a big deal. That's just because usually in home kingdoms in the first season, and even in a number of KVKs, I've seen people place forts near the dragon. Just like I see people do that in home kingdom because they just, want to do it for connection purposes or whatnot. Who knows? I mean, I just don't see that as like a major thing, in my opinion. If you don't trust us, you shouldn't ally with us in the first place. I'm the type of person that wants everything is clear, but you are making things look so fishy. I can't trust her anymore, Chi-Chi. If even YSS ally and fight all of them, you're going down with me. Just read our group chat. And lady, I think we are done here. We will finish the season the way no one wanted. So this kind of seems like an abrupt exit at this point, and essentially was a conversation happening, and then Tomato kind of having this conversation by himself with himself, and then basically kind of making the exit, right, as you see here. You both on, I just woke up, right? It says on here, I'll be honest. Yeah. Yes, I'm about to finish right now, sweetie. I'll be honest here, and in the other conversations, Fukada, you both babies. I just love it. YSS should put a Fukada potato in the mouth of their members. The leadership need to calm them down because someone is toxic and people getting tired. Me too. But Ovo, why the Fukado turn off Aspire? Okay, no fight in Zone 3, but why let them pass so easy? Not a smart move. Obviously, I didn't say Fukado you, but Fukado exclamation point. Both babies. I don't want to be more rude than the truth. And that's my thing again, right? And you see Chi-Chi doing the same thing, kind of sounding like the YSS thing where, again, there was other ways that Zone 3 could have been handled where I just don't feel that it should all be on OVO in that sense. You can put some of it, but I don't put all of it. I would put more of the majority on YSS, OVO second, and then EVA third. So I don't know. For me, this is not how allies work out. Secretly allied with others and fight us at the same time. Turn off, Spire, and remove. I played 4 seasons. The first time I see an ally doing this. No one allied with them just because we said we wouldn't fight in that zone. And keep in mind, this is something that they're sticking to and saying, hey, we told you guys we're not going to fight here if we're not figuring this out. And the only option is we're just going to battle royale or free-for-all in the final zone for the specific dragon rewards or end-of-season rewards. Any longer Spire, the Spire was off already. I wasn't online to turn it on, and I removed the towers after you start making BS accusations. YSS asked us to come to that then downplay when it's brought up yesterday. And I think that's like the A dimension. Every R4 in your alliance can see they building up slowly to your Spire. Now you remove towers to let them build AF. Alliance Fort, I don't know what you're thinking. If you want to fight us, just say it. As I stated, I told them we aren't fighting in that zone. Why should we fight for someone who sit and saves their RSS elixirs and we use ours? I removed that tower after they started the fort. Not so they could build to it. I told no yesterday at the fight of 3 days, so it wasn't an option, right? And so Chi-Chi confirming, right, with at least one of the statements yesterday, I'm like, no, I didn't want to do the whole free-for-all battle royale fight. And now you remove towers to let them build AF. I don't know what you were thinking if you want. Oh, I think this is just the same thing. You talk different. Oh, no, sorry. Is this situation impossible to store? Your talk is different than your act. Why remove tower? So it's a lot. It's a lot, right? That's where we're at right now. And so you look at how the situation's playing out now, and as we showed you, right, they're still fighting, but it very much looks like YSS and EVA are going to get Dragon whenever. Someone did say that YSS attempted the Dragon with like 114 people or so, 104, 114, but they only got the Dragon halfway down. That was one report that was shared with me. So again, I don't know what the plan is. Do I think, now what are my thoughts if this happens and no one gets Dragon? Then yeah, I think that's pretty hilarious, right? Like I think, if anything, I think Dragon wins. Right? I think Dragon is the champion of this KVK, and I think we need to bow down to the Frost Dragon and give my boy some props for doing doing God's work, essentially, right? Or doing the heavens work, if you will. Because I think Frost Dragon would be the real champion here. Anyways, that's it from me, right? Those are my thoughts. That's everything that anyone shared with me. And again, I appreciate the leads talking to me from each of the alliances, right, for OVO, for War, for YSS, for EVA. I appreciate them, giving me permission to share and talk about what they discuss with me, and then just give you my thoughts and my opinions on the situation, right? Because I think there's a lot of good lessons that we can take away from this. And like we've already alluded to, probably the number one most important thing is figure your shiitake mushrooms out on what different tiers of rewards and then what your goals are going to be for them. And then understand that sometimes taking maybe a lesser reward for a win at the end of the season still has a lot of value. And I just really want to know what your guys' thoughts are. Now, if you've listened to everything, first and foremost, thank you for jamming with us here for about 35 minutes. And I'd love to know what your thoughts are overall on how you felt everything transpired. And if I missed maybe an angle, or if you're seeing a different angle that I didn't, I'd love to know what that is. And please share that with us down below. That's going to do it for me. As always, until next time, I'll catch you later.